The deputy's hand was already on my son's wrist when Ryan's phone lit up on the head table. Bank alert. Bold letters. A number so big it didn't belong at a wedding. $48,000. The ballroom smelled like champagne and white roses, and the band's last chord was still vibrating in the air when Vanessa leaned into Ryan's ear and whispered, through a smile meant for photographs, "Make her sign anyway." Ryan's fingers trembled around the microphone. His tux collar was damp with sweat. His eyes found mine across the candles and crystal glasses, and for one suspended second, he looked like a boy again. Caught with his hand in a jar, he swore he didn't touch. Deputy Hargrove spoke like a man reading a weather report. "Ryan Carter, you're under arrest on suspicion of fraud and identity misuse." Vanessa's smile didn't vanish. It sharpened. "You cannot do this," she said, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. "Not on my wedding night." I set a manila folder on the head table with a soft slap that cut through the room better than any scream. Cardboard against polished wood. Final. Inside that folder was the one thing they'd counted on me not understanding. Land. Vanessa's eyes darted to the folder, then to my face, then to the deputy. Her voice dropped into something that wasn't meant for the guests. "You think you're winning?" she hissed. "You don't even know what he already did." Ryan swallowed hard, staring at the bank alert like it was a confession written in light. And before I could say a word, Grant Weller, standing by the bar like he owned the room, started walking toward us with the calm of a man who thought money could stop handcuffs. Before I tell you how my own son tried to take my land, drain my bank account, and turn his wedding into an ambush, let me know where you're watching from the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to stand up to family greed. To understand how we got here, we have to go back 11 weeks. The first move wasn't dramatic. It was polite. That's how these things start when the thief knows you would slam the door if they came in wearing a mask. It was a Tuesday late afternoon, the kind of day that smells like damp leaves and coal coming. I was at my kitchen sink washing a mug that still carried a faint cinnamon stain, when 3 sharp raps hit my front door. Not a neighbor knock, not a friendly knock, a knock that said, "I have a plan, and you're part of it." When I opened the door, my son stood there with a grin that didn't match his eyes. Ryan had always had an easy face, the kind people trust because it looks familiar. He was tall like his father, Mark, with the same jawline, and the same habit of smiling first and thinking later. But that day the smile felt practiced, like he'd tried it in the car mirror. Beside him was Vanessa Hart, then still his fiancée, holding a bakery box tied with twine like a peace offering. "I brought pastries," she said brightly, and the perfume hit me a half-second later. Floral, sharp, expensive, like she expected my house to change its smell to accommodate her. "Surprise," Ryan said, stepping past me before I invited him in. Vanessa followed without waiting either. She glanced at my entryway the way people glance at a rental listing, eyes moving over the scuffed baseboard and the old family photos like she was deciding what could be replaced. I closed the door behind them and forced my face into a neutral kindness. Mothers learn that expression the way nurses learn to smile at difficult patients. You can't survive without it. "What's going on?" I asked. Ryan didn't sit in the kitchen. He walked straight into my living room and stopped at the mantel where Mark's photo sat. Mark in his work jacket, arm around Ryan at graduation, both of them grinning like they believed the future was simple. Ryan stared at that photo too long, and my stomach gave a small, quiet warning. Vanessa perched on the couch without removing her coat. "We should talk," she said, as if she was the one who owned the word should. Ryan cleared his throat. "Mom, the wedding, it's getting expensive." I dried my hands slowly on a dish towel, buying time without looking like I was buying time. "Weddings are expensive," I said. Vanessa's smile widened. "Not like this," she replied. "We're doing it right." Ryan nodded too quickly. "Costs change. Vendors changed. The venue." Vanessa cut in, sweet but sharp. "Inflation, you know." Inflation. A word that covers everything from groceries to greed. Ryan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "We need help," he said. There it was. The ask. I held his gaze. "How much?" Vanessa answered like she'd been waiting to say it. 50,000. The number sat in my living room like a stranger who refused to leave. I didn't gasp. I didn't clutch my chest. I let silence stretch long enough that Ryan's eyes flicked away first. "I don't have 50,000, I said calmly. Ryan's mouth tightened. "You do, though." Vanessa nodded, eyes bright with certainty. "You're sitting on it." Ryan gestured around my home like it was a bank vault. "This place, the property, it's worth a lot." I felt my face stay still, but inside something hardened. When someone tells you you're sitting on value, what they mean is you're sitting in their way. I kept my tone level. "You want to take a loan?" I asked. Ryan reached into his coat and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. He held it out like it was an invitation. I took it, bank logo at the top, my name typed in clean black letters, a home equity estimate, and a suggested line of credit. Pre-approval, $75,000. I stared at that number, and a cold question slid into my mind. How did he get this? "You went to my bank," I said. Ryan shrugged, too casual. "It's not a big deal. I just called. I asked questions." Vanessa laughed lightly. "He's being responsible," she said, as if I should applaud. My phone chimed in the kitchen. One bright, simple sound that felt louder than it should have. I walked to the counter and glanced at the screen. "Mr. Ochoa, my neighbor, you got company? Saw a black SUV by your mailbox earlier. Looked like a realtor." I stared at the text until my eyes sharpened. A realtor? I turned back toward the living room. "Did you bring a realtor to my house?" Ryan blinked once, and his smile slipped. Vanessa's eyes flashed irritation, not surprise. "It's not like that," Ryan said too fast. Vanessa leaned forward, voice dropping as if she was doing me a favor by confiding. "We just wanted to see options," she said. "Nothing serious." "Options for what?" I asked. Ryan exhaled, impatience breaking through his practiced calm. "Mom, don't do this. We're trying to solve a problem." Vanessa's tone sharpened. "You're alone here," she said. "This house is too much for you. You could downsize and be comfortable." Comfortable. A word people use when they're trying to move you without admitting it. Ryan nodded, warming to the idea. "A condo near town, or something smaller. You wouldn't have to worry about maintenance." I looked at him, then at her, then back at Mark's photo on my mantle. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. The sight of it was enough to remind me what this land meant. My father's voice rose in my head, old and steady, the way it did when I stood at the edge of any decision. "Never confuse a roof with the ground it stands on." I kept my voice calm. "So you're suggesting I sell?" I said. Vanessa smiled like the word sell was a gift. "We're suggesting you make a smart choice," she replied, "and help your son start his life." Ryan added quickly, "You always said family comes first." That phrase, from his mouth, felt like someone wearing my coat. I let my expression soften, just enough to keep them talking. "And if I say no?" I asked. Ryan hesitated. Vanessa didn't. "Then you're choosing a house over your son," she said, and she said it like a verdict. I nodded slowly as if considering. "I need a few days," I said. Vanessa's smile snapped. "A few days," she scoffed. "We don't have a few days." Ryan's phone buzzed in his hand. He glanced down, and I caught the top of the screen before he turned it away. Grant Development Group, a company name, not a wedding vendor, not a florist, not a venue, a developer. I didn't comment. "Not yet." I filed it away the way I filed away every detail that didn't belong. Ryan stood abruptly. "Just think about it," he said, voice tight. "We need an answer." Vanessa stood too, smoothing her coat like she was ending a meeting. "Try not to make this ugly," she said softly, and the softness was the cruelest part. "Ryan deserves happiness." They left the pastries on my counter like a tip. When the door shut, My house went quiet in the way it does after a storm passes through. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was waiting. I didn't sit down. I walked straight to the hallway desk where I kept my important documents, the place Mark used to call my command center. I pulled open the top drawer. The envelope labeled property wasn't there. I stared at the rectangle of dust where it always sat. My pulse didn't race. My hands didn't shake. But my mind sharpened into something cold. I pulled the drawer out farther, checked behind files, checked the back panel, checked the second drawer. Nothing. Then I went to my bedroom. I opened my medicine cabinet mirror and looked behind it, where I had taped a spare key years ago, an emergency key to my small safe. Mark's idea. In case you forget, he'd said. The tape was still there, but the key was gone. I stood very still. Someone had been inside my private spaces, not snooping, not curious, targeting. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on the second ring. Hello. A cheerful male voice launched into a script. Mrs. Carter? This is Mile from North Pine Realty. I'm following up on a consultation request we received for your property at 117 Alder Ridge. My grip tightened on the phone. Consultation request? Yes, he said brightly. We have an interested party. I did not request anything, I said, and my own voice surprised me with how steady it sounded. A pause. The cheer thinned. Oh, he said. We were contacted by Ryan Carter. He indicated he had authorization to discuss next steps. Authorization. I felt something settle in my chest. Heavy and clear. What did he say exactly? I asked. Miles hesitated, then answered carefully. He said he was managing the sale for you. He said that you were ready to downsize. I closed my eyes for one beat, then opened them. Do not proceed, I said. And if anyone calls claiming to speak for me, you verify with me directly. Yes, ma'am. Miles replied, all cheer gone. I ended the call and stood in my bedroom, staring at the blank tape behind my mirror. A memory rose without permission. Me at 16, standing with my father at the edge of this land, spring mud dark under our boots. He'd knelt, scooped a handful of soil, rubbed it between his fingers like it was gold. Evelyn, he'd said quiet but firm, people will smile at you while they measure your yard for themselves. You remember this. A roof can be replaced. Land doesn't come back once you let it go. My phone buzzed with a new text. Ryan, Mom, don't talk to any realtors. We're handling it. Just trust me. Just trust me. I stared at the screen, then slowly took a screenshot, because people doing the right thing don't demand blind trust. They offer information. Outside, a car door slammed. I moved to the window and lifted the curtain a fraction. A black SUV sat near my mailbox. A man in a blazer stepped out holding a clipboard, looking up at my home like it was already his. I didn't open the door. I didn't confront him. I went back to my kitchen table and opened a metal tin Mark used to keep spare screws in. Under the false bottom, taped flat, was a certified printout from the county that I kept separate from the rest for a reason. Land title. My name. Alone. I smoothed the paper with my palm and whispered the words my father and my life had taught me. Never confuse a roof with the ground it stands on. At 2:14 a.m. that night, my email pinged. Subject, urgent, signature required. I opened it. A title company PDF packet. Closing documents. Seller, Ryan Carter. Property address, 117 Alder Ridge. Seller, my son had named himself seller of my home. I printed the packet, the printer whining in the quiet house, and laid the pages out on my table. Then I found the number that made my eyebrows lift. Purchase price, $210,000. $210,000. I did the math out loud to my empty kitchen, because numbers keep you honest. Land alone is worth more than that. I whispered. So, what are they really buying? I scrolled down. Buyer, Grand Development Group. The same name I'd seen on Ryan's phone. I stared at it until the ink felt like it was bleeding. Then I made my first real decision. I wasn't going to confront Ryan in anger. I wasn't going to beg him to be a son. I was going to become proof. And the next morning, I was going to county records office to find out what he'd already filed in my name. The county records office smelled like dust and warm toner. It was the kind of place where people brought their divorces, their bankruptcies, their boundary lines, and pretended it was just paperwork. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Chairs scraped across cheap tile. A printer in the back groaned like it hated the job as much as the people did. I took a number and sat with my folder in my lap, watching a man in work boots argue softly with clerk about a permit. 2 seats away, a young couple held hands while flipping through mortgage forms like they were reading a menu. When my number flashed, I walked to the counter and slid my driver's license across. I need the full property record for 117 Alder Ridge. I said, everything filed in the last 6 months. The clerk was a woman about my age with glasses on a chain. Her name tag said El Molina. She typed, clicked, and squinted at the screen. Then her eyebrows rose. Not curiosity. Concern. I didn't ask if something was wrong. I waited. Silence makes people feel it. Ms. Molina swallowed. Mrs. Carter. She said carefully, "Do you recognize this document?" She turned her monitor toward me, just enough to show the county portal entry. A quitclaim deed, filed 3 weeks earlier, granting interest from Evelyn Carter to Ryan Carter. My name was there. My signature was there. And I had never signed it. For a moment, everything inside me went quiet and precise. Not disbelief. Recognition. This was the sound a lock makes when it finally clicks, and you realize you weren't imagining the rattling. I do not recognize that. I said. Ms. Molina's face tightened. "Would you like a certified copy?" she asked, voice lower. "Yes," I replied, "and I need the notarization details." She printed the document, the machine spitting out my stolen identity on warm paper. The county seal was raised and rough under my thumb. Proof that this wasn't a family argument anymore. At the bottom was a notary stamp. Darlene Pike. Address included. I didn't know a Darlene Pike, but I knew the kind of person who would use a notary like a weapon. Ms. Molina leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. "Mrs. Carter," she said, "I'm not supposed to tell you what to do, but if you didn't sign that, you should speak to an attorney. Immediately." I nodded once. "I am," I said. As I slid the certified copy into my folder, my phone rang. Not a text. A call. Unknown number. I answered because sometimes the next trap announces itself. "Mrs. Carter?" a man asked. "This is Trevor with Pinecrest Title. We're preparing for your closing." "My closing?" I repeated. "Yes," he said, cheerful and mechanical. "We have documents from your son, Ryan Carter, and we just need—" "Stop," I said calmly. "There is no closing. My signature was forged." The line went quiet, the cheer falling out of his voice. "I'm sorry," he said, suddenly cautious. "You were notified," I replied, "and you'll receive a formal letter from my attorney today. Do not contact my son as my representative again." "Yes, ma'am," he said. "Small now." I ended the call and walked out to my car with the cold steadiness of someone carrying a live wire. In the parking lot, I didn't sit and cry. I didn't call Ryan to argue. I called the one person Mark and I trusted when we updated our wills after his cancer scare. Priya Patel. The phone rang twice. "Patel Law." Priya answered, brisk and clear. "Priya," I said, "it's Evelyn Carter. My son filed a deed with my forged signature. He's attempting to sell property he doesn't own." There was a half-second of silence. Then Priya's tone changed into something sharper. "Where are you?" she asked. "County parking lot." I said. "Good," she replied. "Email me scans immediately. And Evelyn, do not confront him alone. If he filed a deed, this is criminal." Criminal. The word should have hurt. Instead, it gave the situation edges. Rules. Consequences. I also own the land outright. I added. The structure is complicated. Priya exhaled once. Then you have leverage, she said, and we'll use it. But we move fast. I emailed her from my phone right there, the documents photographed on my car's steering wheel. Then I drove home with my hand steady on the wheel, and my mind already building a checklist. Locks, cameras, copies, witnesses, proof. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw the first orange survey staked near my mailbox, tied with bright pink tape that fluttered in the wind. I stopped the car and stared at it for 3 seconds. Then I got out, walked over, and touched it. Fresh wood, fresh paint. Someone had been on my land marking it like a map. I followed the line of stakes across my yard, one near the oak tree, one by the side fence, one at the corner where my property line dipped toward the tree line. This wasn't a realtor's curiosity. This was planning. Inside, I locked my door and went straight to the hallway desk where the drawer had been disturbed. I didn't open it the way I always had. I pulled it out fully and looked behind it, feeling the underside with my fingertips like Mark taught me when we checked for mice years ago. Nothing useful yet, but the act itself steadied me, because it reminded me of something important. I wasn't helpless. I was simply late to a plan that had started without my consent. Priya arrived the next morning with a folder thicker than mine. Her presence changed the air the way a locked door changes a hallway. She shook my hand once firm. "Show me everything," she said. We sat at my kitchen table. Coffee steamed between us. The house smelled like grounds and paper. I slid the certified deed copy toward her. Priya read it without expression, then tapped the notary stamp with her pen. "Darlene Pike," she said. "We start there." Before she could outline the next step, my doorbell rang. A long, confident press. I didn't move toward the door. I opened my camera app first and checked the porch feed. A man in a fitted coat stood holding a leather folder. Slick hair, white teeth, a smile built for closing deals. I opened the door with the chain still latched. "Yes." "Mrs. Carter," he said brightly. "Daniel Strickland, Grant Development Group. I'm here to clear up misunderstandings." Priya stepped into view behind me, silent but visible. Daniel's smile tightened. "I've been instructed not to contact you directly," he said quickly, as if he could talk his way around it. "But this is time-sensitive." "What do you want?" I asked. Daniel lifted his leather folder slightly. "We have a contract," he said, "signed by Ryan Carter. We've already made arrangements. We're here to prevent unnecessary legal mess." Priya's voice cut through, calm and cold. "Mr. Strickland, you were told not to contact my client," she said. "Any further attempt will be treated as harassment." Daniel's eyes flicked to Priya, then back to me, and his mask slipped just enough to show contempt. "Mrs. Carter," he said softly, "court is expensive. Stress is dangerous for older homeowners. You don't want this turning into something ugly." He said older like it was a liability. I didn't react to the insult. I made him put his cards on the table. "Show me," I said, "what you think you bought." He hesitated, then slid papers through the gap in the door. I took them and stepped back to read. Purchase agreement. Property. Structure located at 117 Alder Ridge. Structure, not land. My eyes moved down the clause that made my stomach go cold. Buyer agrees to remove structure from site within 30 days of closing. Remove the structure. Move my home like it was a shed. I looked up slowly. Why would a developer buy a house just to move it? I asked. Daniel's smile returned brittle. "Historic structures have value," he said. Priya took the papers, skimmed, and her mouth tightened. "You can't remove a structure attached to land without lawful access," she said. "And you don't have it." Daniel's eyes hardened. "We have a recorded deed," he said. Priya's voice stayed even. "A fraudulent deed," she corrected. "And you have notice." Daniel's gaze slid past us into my home, quick and assessing, like he was checking whether something had already been stripped from the walls. Then he nodded once. "We'll be in touch," he said and walked away. When I closed the door, Priya looked at me. "He checked your interior like he expected something missing," she said. I nodded. "Because they're not buying wood." I replied, "They're buying leverage." Priya's phone rang. She checked the screen, and her expression tightened. "That's Grant's counsel," she said, and answered on speaker without hesitation. "Patel," she said. A man's voice came through, smooth and annoyed. "Ms. Patel, this is Martin Coyle for Grant Development Group. We're hearing your client intends to interfere with a lawful closing." Priya's voice stayed ice. "Your client is attempting to benefit from forged documents," she said. "There is no lawful closing." Coyle sighed. "Your client is elderly," he said, like it was a fact on a form. "She's emotional. If she breaches his contract, she exposes herself to liability." I leaned in slightly. He wants her to feel small, I thought. If I react, he wins a frame. Priya didn't let him frame me. "Do not contact Mrs. Carter directly again," she said. "You've been served notice of fraud. Proceed at your own risk." Coyle's tone sharpened. "Then we'll pursue a competency evaluation," he said casually, like ordering a background check. Priya's eyes flicked to mine. "Try," she said, and ended the call. The threat hung in my kitchen like smoke. Competency. That meant they weren't only trying to steal property. They were trying to steal my voice. That afternoon, Priya drove me to the notary address on the deed. Pike Notary Services was in a strip mall between a tax office and a used phone shop. The window sign was cheerful blue against peeling paint. Inside, the air smelled like stale coffee and cheap air freshener. A small fan rattled in the corner. Behind the counter sat a woman in her late 50s with hair sprayed stiff and glasses low on her nose. She was stamping something until Priya walked in. Priya placed her business card on the counter like a chess piece. "Darlene Pike?" she asked. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Yes." Priya smiled politely. "You notarized a quitclaim deed transferring interest from Evelyn Carter to Ryan Carter on Tuesday the 3rd, she said. "We need your notary journal and ID copy presented." Darlene's mouth tightened. "I don't just hand out my journal," she snapped. Priya's voice didn't rise. It sharpened. "Then I subpoena it," she said. "But if your stamp was misused, you will want to cooperate now." The word subpoena changed the room. Darlene swallowed and pulled a thick black ledger from a drawer. She flipped through pages with her thumb, faster at first, then slower. Then her face changed. Fear. "Oh," she whispered. Priya leaned in. "Show me," she said. Darlene turned the journal so we could see the entry. My name, my address, a signature that wasn't mine, a note, ID presented, driver's license copy attached. Priya held out her hand. "The copy." Darlene hesitated, then produced a clipped stack of photocopies from another drawer. Priya took the top sheet and passed it to me. My name, my address. But the photo wasn't me. A woman with similar hair color and age range, but different eyes, different mouth. A manufactured version of me meant to fool someone who didn't care enough to look closely. My stomach went cold, but my voice stayed level. "That isn't me," I said. Darlene's hands shook. "A young man brought her," she blurted. "He said he was her son. He said it was family business, time sensitive." Priya's eyes locked. "Name," she said. Darlene pointed at the journal entry. "Ryan Carter," she whispered. My son brought a stranger to impersonate me. Not panic, not wedding stress. A decision. The bell over the door jingled. A man stepped into the notary office wearing a sheriff's uniform. Deputy Hargrove. New character to this part of the story, arriving like the system finally catching up. He held a badge in one hand and a folded paper in the other. "Miss Pike?" he asked. Darlene nearly jumped. "Yes," she stammered. Hargrove looked at Priya. "Ms. Patel?" he asked. Priya nodded. "Yes," she said. "This is my client." Hargrove's eyes met mine, respectful. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "the county clerk flagged a suspicious filing. We're opening an investigation." He glanced at the fake ID photocopy, then at the journal, and his jaw tightened. "Ms. Pike," he said, "you'll provide a written statement. Today." Darlene nodded so fast her glasses nearly slid off. Hargrove turned to me. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "do you have proof you weren't here on Tuesday the 3rd? "I was at St. Agnes Medical," I said, and produced the hospital paperwork Priya had told me to keep ready. Hargrove took it carefully. "Good," he said. "That's an alibi in ink." Priya's voice stayed calm. "Deputy, they're rushing closing," she said. "We need immediate notice served." Hargrove nodded. "We can serve notice," he said, "and we can warn their crews." But Mrs. Carter, his eyes held mine. "If equipment shows up, call. Don't confront." "I won't," I said. "I'm done doing their work for them." On the drive home, Priya didn't fill the car with reassurance. She filled it with steps. "Injunction filed today," she said. "Fraud flag on the parcel. Cease and desist grant. And we document harassment. Document everything." I repeated. "Yes," Priya said. "Especially if they get stupid." They got stupid that same night. At 1:37 a.m., my phone chimed with a new email notification. Subject, notice, capacity inquiry. Someone, Grants Counsel, had emailed my doctor's office requesting confirmation of mental competence. My hands didn't shake. I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Priya, then opened my camera feeds. Because if they were moving in legal channels, they were moving on my land too. At 2:05 a.m., one of my new motion sensors, installed early that day at Priya's instruction, pinged. Side yard movement detected. I tapped the feed. A man in a hood crouched by one of the survey stakes and sprayed bright orange paint on the ground. Then he crept along my side wall, lifted his phone, and took photos of my kitchen window frame. Reconnaissance. I hit record on the app, then called 911 with a calm voice I didn't recognize as my own until later. "There's a trespasser on my property," I said. "I have him on camera." Headlights swept across my yard within minutes. The man bolted into the tree line. Deputy Hargrove arrived, watched the footage, and his face hardened. "They're testing response time," he said. "They want you isolated." "I'm not isolated," I replied. Hargrove nodded once. "Then we make it official," he said. "I'll increase patrols." And Priya needs an injunction served everywhere. The next morning, Priya brought someone else to my kitchen. A tall man in a plain jacket, with alert eyes and a slim black case. "This is Nolan Reese," Priya said. "Licensed private investigator. Former fraud unit." Nolan shook my hand once, professional. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "we're going to find out how deep this goes." He didn't start by tearing up my house. He started by observing. He walked my hallway desk, ran fingertips along the drawer seams, checked the lock, then crouched and examined the underside like he was reading a story written in scratches. "Someone used a shim," he said, and held up a thin sliver plastic. "Cut from a credit card. Quick bypass. Minimal damage." "So Ryan didn't just take a key," I said. Nolan's eyes stayed neutral. "Or someone taught him," he replied. Then he asked, "Any other valuables or documents stored off a safe?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Basement," I said. "Mark at a lockbox." Nolan followed me downstairs. The basement smelled like earth and old lumber. Concrete cold underfoot. Shelves lined with paint cans and mason jars, like a time capsule. I led him to the shelf where Mark used to keep the lockbox hidden behind a row of old paint cans. The paint cans were still there. The dust pattern was wrong. A clean rectangle on the shelf where something heavy had sat. My stomach dropped into a cold certainty. "It's gone," I whispered. Nolan shined his flashlight across the concrete near the shelf. Fresh scrape marks. Priya's voice drifted down the stairs tight. "What was in it?" she called. I didn't like saying it out loud, but truth doesn't improve by hiding. "Letters," I said. "Family papers. Maybe bonds. And something Mark wrote for Ryan." Nolan's eyes sharpened. Then they weren't just after title, he said quietly. They were after leverage. As if to confirm it, Nolan's phone buzzed. He glanced at a message, then looked up. Ryan paid a venue deposit 3 weeks ago, he said. $28,000. Cashier's check. Priya's eyebrows rose. 28, she echoed. Nolan nodded. Same day, he received a wire, he added. 30,000 from Grant Development Group. The kitchen felt suddenly smaller. I did the math in my head, then said it out loud, because numbers don't let you lie to yourself. So Grant paid him. I said, to trap him. Priya's mouth tightened. And now, Ryan needs your property to make that payment make sense, she said. Nolan's voice was blunt. Or he needs it because Grant will come collecting, he added. I stare at the basement door, then at the kitchen window, then at the land title sitting in my folder like an anchor. This wasn't a wedding budget problem. This was a finance theft, and my son was in debt to the people trying to erase me. I looked at Priya. What's our next move? I asked. Priya didn't hesitate. We stop closing, she said. We preserve evidence, and then we make them show us what they're really after. Priya didn't say, we make them show us, like it was a slogan. She said it like it was a method. She slid her legal pad across my table and drew 2 columns with a hard vertical line. Emotion on the left, she said. Evidence on the right. From now on, you live on the right. I didn't argue. I picked up my pen and started listing dates, calls, missing items, the realtor inquiry, the bank pre-approval paper Ryan waved in my living room, the safe key behind my mirror. Nolan watched quietly, then reached into his case and set a small device on the table, a motion logger. No camera, no sound, just timestamps. Cameras show faces, Nolan said. Logs show patterns. Patterns win cases. My phone buzzed as if to prove his point. A new text from Ryan. Mom, stop talking people. You're making this worse. I didn't answer. I turned my phone toward Nolan so he could see, and he nodded once. Screenshot, he said. I did, then slid the phone away. Priya didn't comfort me with vague lines about family. She gave me tasks. Today, she said, we file the injunction. Nolan secures your house. And you do something that feels boring but matters. Get a competency letter from your doctor now, before they force a narrative. They already threatened it. I said, and they'll try it, Priya replied. That's why we go first. Before she could stand, the doorbell rang again. Short, confident. I checked the porch camera. Mr. Ochoa stood there in his robe, hat in hand, face worried. I opened the door. Evelyn, he said quietly. I didn't want to stick my nose in, but I heard your boy on the porch last week. On the phone. My throat went dry, but my face stayed still. What did he say? I asked. Mr. Ochoa swallowed. He said, yeah, she'll be out by December. She doesn't have a choice. The words settled on my skin like ash. She doesn't have a choice. Priya's eyes sharpened. Nolan's gaze went distant and focused, as if he was already placing that line into a timeline. Did he say who he was talking to? Priya asked. Mr. Ochoa shrugged. Sounded like business, he said, not family. I thanked him, and he left as quietly as he'd come. When the door shut, Nolan spoke. That's intent, he said. Priya nodded. And it's a witness, she added. I didn't let myself stew in it. I moved, because tactical thinking isn't a thought. It's a schedule. That afternoon, Nolan changed my locks and added 2 additional cameras, one hidden, one obvious. Why both? I asked. He tightened the screw without looking up. Obvious cameras change behavior, he said. Hidden cameras capture truth. My doctor appointment was at 4. The clinic smelled like disinfectant and cheap hand lotion. The receptionist greeted me with a smile that faltered when she saw Priya beside me. Priya didn't let her falter linger. She said calmly, We need a same-day letter verifying cognitive capacity. There's an attempted exploitation case. The receptionist blinked, then moved faster. In the exam room, my physician, Dr. Klein, listened while I explained. Her face tightened with each detail. Fake deed, impersonator, threats, competency language. I can assess you today, she said, and I'll write the letter. She ran me through questions, tasks, memory, reasoning. I answered steadily. I didn't joke. I didn't act offended, because I wanted her letter to be clean. When she handed it to me, it was printed on official letterhead, signed, dated, and direct. Mrs. Evelyn Carter is fully oriented and demonstrates intact judgment and decision-making capacity. It read. I held it like armor. As we left the clinic, Priya's phone chimed. An email. She glanced at it, and her mouth tightened. They moved the closing up, she said. How soon? I asked. Next Friday, she replied. They're rushing because they think you're alone. Nolan's voice was flat. Then we don't let them rush in the dark, he said. That night, Nolan asked to scan my house. Not with hammers, with tools. He brought a stud finder, a thermal scanner, and a small borescope camera like a mechanic uses for engines. He moved room to room without drama, sweeping walls, checking baseboards, tapping lightly where heat signatures looked wrong. When he reached the hallway wall near my coat closet, he paused. He ran the scanner again. The beep changed. There's a void, he said quietly. Priya stepped closer. Could be old wiring, she said. Nolan shook his head. Not shaped like wiring, he replied. This is deliberate. My mouth went dry. That wall had always been a little odd. One baseboard piece didn't match. A coat hook sat slightly crooked, like someone had moved it and put it back wrong. Mark used to call it one of the house's quirks. Nolan crouched, ran his fingertips along the baseboard seam, and pressed gently. The board gave slightly. He looked up at me. Mrs. Carter, he said, may I remove this? I nodded. He used a thin pry tool, careful, taking paint and wood apart without splintering it. The old paint cracked with a soft sound like ice breaking. Behind the baseboard was a metal panel, painted over to blend into the wall. A hidden access door. Priya exhaled once, controlled. Well, she murmured. Nolan unscrewed the panel. When it opened, a faint squeal of metal on metal cut through the quiet hallway. Inside the cavity was a bundle wrapped in oilcloth, tied with string. Nolan didn't pull out barehanded. He put on gloves, photographed the panel, photographed the cavity, then lifted the bundle out slowly and set it on my kitchen table. The oilcloth smelled like machine grease and thyme. My hand stayed steady as I untied the string. Inside were thick envelopes, old, yellowed at the edges, each labeled in blocky handwriting. Vanessa, Ryan, Mark, and one that made my breath catch. Evelyn, do not trust them. I looked at the last one until the letters blurred. Priya's voice softened a fraction. That's specific, she said. Nolan photographed each envelope, each label, then placed them into evidence sleeves so we could handle them cleanly. Open them one at a time, Priya said. We do this like a deposition. I opened Ryan first. Inside was a letter in Harold Carter's handwriting. Ryan's grandfather, Mark's father. Harold had been hard, suspicious, and obsessed with control. He'd never liked that the land was in my name. The letter was short and brutal. Ryan, if you're reading this, you've already decided you deserve what you didn't earn. Blood is blood, so I leave you something anyway, but you will not take the land. The land is Evelyn's. If you try, you're not a Carter. You're a thief. My pulse didn't spike. It slowed, because Harold's words weren't just warning Ryan. They were warning me. Nolan reached for the envelope labeled Vanessa and paused. Same protocol, he asked. Priya nodded. He opened it carefully. A photograph slid out and landed face up on the table. Vanessa, younger, hair darker, standing close to a suited man with his arm around her waist. She smiled like she belonged in his life. On the back, in Harold's handwriting, Grant Weller, 2019. My throat went tight. Priya's eyes narrowed. So she didn't meet him through work as a coincidence, she said. Nolan pulled the next item from the Vanessa envelope. Printed emails. Subject line, Carter Property Strategy. I scanned the first page, and my stomach went cold with the shape of it. Vanessa had been communicating with Grant long before she entered my living room with pastries. This wasn't a greedy bride. This was a placement, a long approach. My phone rang. Ryan's name. The timing felt almost theatrical, but thieves don't care about timing except when it benefits them. I answered and put it on speaker, without warning him. "Ryan," I said. His voice was sharp with panic. "Mom, what are you doing? Why is Darlene Pike calling me? Why is someone from the county office asking questions?" Priya lifted her eyebrows slightly, giving me silent confirmation. "Let him talk." "I'm protecting myself," I said. Ryan exhaled hard. "You're ruining my life," he snapped. "Tell me why my signature is on a deed I didn't sign." I replied calmly. Silence. Then Ryan's voice went defensive. "Vanessa handled the paperwork," he said quickly. "She said it was fine." Priya's mouth tightened. I asked the question that mattered. "Ryan, did you bring someone to impersonate me?" I said. Ryan's breath hitched. "No," he said too fast. "I didn't." Behind his voice, I heard Vanessa faintly shouting, "Hang up?" Ryan's voice dropped. "I have to go," he said. "Ryan," I said quietly, "how much did Grant wire you?" He didn't answer. The line went dead. Priya tapped the table once with her pen. "We keep him exposed," she said. "He's still hiding behind her." Nolan didn't look at the letters anymore. He looked at my house, at the walls, the corners, the places someone could slip something and come back for it. "They broke into the narrative," he said. "Now we break their confidence." The next morning, Nolan found the bug. He didn't announce it with flair. He simply walked into my living room, knelt near an outlet, and peeled back a sliver of baseboard. A tiny black device sat tucked behind it. "No wonder they sound so sure about what you say in private," he said. Priya bagged it like a dead insect. I stared at the little device and remembered Vanessa kneeling in my living room months earlier, pretending to tie her shoe. At the time, I'd barely noticed. Now the memory felt like a fingerprint on my skin. That afternoon, Nolan took me to the venue. Quietly, not for confrontation, but for listening. The place smelled like polished wood and leftover flowers. Staff moved around with clipboards, adjusting table placements and draping fabric, like a stage crew preparing for a show. I didn't walk in like an angry mother. I walked in like a lost older woman. I asked a staff member where the restroom was, then drifted toward a side hallway where I could hear voices through a cracked door. Ryan's voice strained. "We can't change the date. We already told everyone." Vanessa's voice, low and furious. "Then make her sign." "I don't care how." "Ryan, she got a lawyer." Vanessa laughed, cold. "So?" She's sentimental. "She'll fold when she realizes you'll hate her." "Ryan, what if she doesn't?" Vanessa's answer made my ribs tighten. "Then we take the house anyway," she said. "Grant has crews. He can move it. Once it's gone, she's got nothing to stand on." Nothing to stand on. I backed away quietly, heart steady, mind already organizing it. That wasn't wedding stress. That was conspiracy. A staff member stepped into the hallway behind me, and I turned immediately, smiling small. "Sorry," I said. "Wrong door." He pointed me toward the lobby without suspicion. In my car, I typed the overheard dialogue into my phone while it was still fresh. Time, place, exact phrasing, then sent it to Priya. She replied with one word. "Good." That night, I did the thing that hurt more than any threat. I called Ryan again. Not to yell, to bait. He answered on the second ring. Voice brittle. "What?" I softened my tone. "Ryan, I got an email from your venue." I lied smoothly. "They say you're about to lose your deposit." Silence. Then a small, defeated sound. "Yeah," he admitted. How much do you need? I asked. Ryan swallowed. 42, he said, voice small. 42,000. The number wasn't just money. It was a trap. I can't do that in cash, I said, letting my voice wobble just enough to sound tired. Ryan latched onto it. Then do the house, he said quickly. Mom, just sign what you need to sign. We'll take care of everything. You'll be safe. Safe. The word was always a cage with Vanessa's fingerprint on it. I let my voice drop like a confession. I'm overwhelmed, I said. I want this to stop. Can you come over tomorrow? Just you and Vanessa. Ryan hesitated. Why? He asked. Because you're my son, I said, and I miss you. There was a long pause. Then he said cautiously, Fine, but Vanessa is coming. Of course, I thought. Tomorrow at 7, I said. When I ended the call, Priya looked at me. You're inviting them into your home, she said. I'm inviting them into cameras. I replied. Nolan installed 2 recorders in the living room that afternoon, one obvious in a decorative box, one hidden behind books. Priya stayed nearby, but not inside, keeping the scene clean. Deputy Hargrove agreed to be on standby if threats escalated. At 6:59 p.m., headlights swept my front window. Ryan and Vanessa walked up together. Vanessa carried a folder. Ryan carried a nervous jaw. I opened the door calmly. Vanessa stepped inside like she owned the air. Evelyn, she said brightly, I'm so glad you finally decided to be reasonable. She put her folder on my coffee table and opened it without asking. Inside were documents flagged with sticky notes. A pen slid toward me like a dagger in a gift box. Sign, she said. I didn't touch the pen. I picked up the top page and read the first line. Quitclaim deed. Land included. All right title and interest. Vanessa watched my eyes move. We simplified it, she said. No technicalities. That's what thieves call the law, I thought. I looked up at Ryan. Is this what you want? I asked quietly. Ryan's eyes flicked to Vanessa and back. Mom, just sign, he pleaded. I can't do this anymore. Vanessa's patience snapped. Stop talking, she hissed at him, then smiled at me again. You'll be allowed to stay for a while, she said. But we need ownership now. Allowed. Stay. For a while. I reached under my coffee table and pulled out my own folder. Vanessa's smile faltered. What's that? She asked. I slid my certified land title onto the table, turning it toward them. The raised seal caught the lamplight. I own the land, I said calmly. You can't sell what isn't yours. Ryan leaned forward, squinting. What? He whispered. Vanessa recovered fast, eyes narrowing. That's not what Mark said, she snapped. I held her gaze. You didn't know Mark, I replied. You knew what you could get from him. Ryan's face reddened. Stop, he snapped, voice rising. Stop acting like she's a villain because you hate her. I ignored the emotion and asked a number question. How much did Grant wire you? I asked. Ryan froze. Vanessa's head snapped toward him. What did she just say? She demanded. Ryan swallowed. Nothing, he lied, too quick. Vanessa's voice went razor thin. Did you tell her? She hissed. He shook his head. I watched them, calm, letting their panic do my work. Vanessa stood abruptly and marched toward my hallway, opening doors without permission. Where are your other papers? She snapped. Where's a lockbox? Ryan followed her, flustered. Vanessa, stop. I stayed seated because my cameras were recording and because silence makes people reveal themselves. From the hallway, Vanessa's muffled voice cut through. Where is it? He said she had it. He said it was in the basement. Ryan's voice strained. I already checked. It wasn't there. Vanessa, then you missed it, idiot. A pause. Then Ryan's confession spilled out, muffled but clear enough. I took the lockbox, he admitted. I gave it to you. Vanessa's voice turned sharp with triumph. And you didn't open it first? Ryan, you said you'd handle it. There it was. The theft? Spoken out loud in my home. Vanessa stormed back into the living room, cheeks flushed. "Where is it?" she demanded. "Where is what?" I asked gently. "The letter," she snapped. "Harold's letter." Ryan's head jerked toward her. "What letter?" he blurted. Vanessa froze. Ryan stared at her. "You said there was a letter," he said, voice rising. "You said my grandfather left me the house." Vanessa's mask slipped and the truth showed teeth. "He did," she snapped, "but your mother is playing games with the land. We just need to get around her." Ryan's voice broke. "You told me you loved me," he said. Vanessa looked at him with flat contempt. "If you can't handle what it takes to win," she said coldly, "you're useless to me." Useless. The word hit him like a slap. I stood slowly, not angry, just finished. "I'm asking you both to leave," I said. Vanessa laughed, sharp. "Or what?" she snapped. "You'll call your lawyer?" I held up my phone screen and showed the live recording indicator. Vanessa's face drained. "You recorded us?" Ryan whispered. "I protected myself," I said calmly, "because you stopped being safe." The front door opened then. Priya stepped inside with Deputy Hargrove behind her. Vanessa spun. "What is this?" she snapped, voice high with panic. Priya's voice was calm and lethal. "It's consequences," she said. "And thank you for confirming coercion and stolen property." Hargrove stepped forward. "Ms. Hart," he said, "you're being issued a formal warning for harassment and witness intimidation. Any further contact will violate the injunction." Vanessa's chin lifted. "Do it," she spat. "See what happens." She brushed past him and left. Ryan didn't. He stood in my living room, breathing hard, eyes glassy. "Mom," he whispered, "I didn't know about the fake ID. You knew you were stealing." I replied quietly. "You knew you took my safe key." He flinched. "She said it was paperwork," he whispered. "Paperwork is how thieves dress," I said. Hargrove turned to Ryan. "We need a statement," he said. "Now." Ryan nodded quickly. Too quickly. "I'll cooperate," he said. As they left, Priya leaned toward me. "We have enough," she said softly. "Now we set the real trap." The next morning, Nolan brought me a message that didn't come by phone. It came by spreadsheet. He set a printed page on my table, highlighted in yellow. "Grant wired Ryan $30,000, he said. "The same day Ryan paid the venue deposit." He pointed lower. "And there's another wire 2 weeks later. $8,000. Note, keep him compliant." I stared at the words. Keep him compliant. Grant didn't think my son was a partner. He thought he was an asset under management. Priya's eyes hardened. "We need Vanessa's devices," she said. "Her laptop, her drives, her communications with Grant." Nolan nodded once. "We can bait her into bringing her insurance," he said. I thought of Vanessa's face when she realized I was recording. Fear, then rage, then calculation. She would come if she thought she could control the outcome. I typed a message to Vanessa, with Priya watching every word. "Vanessa, I found something Harold left. I don't want this public. If you want this to end quietly before the wedding, meet me tomorrow. Bring every document and device you have, so we can settle. No lawyers. Evelyn." I hated sending it, but I hated being hunted more. Vanessa replied within 3 minutes. "Finally, tomorrow 11, and no tricks. If you embarrass me, I'll destroy you." I took a screenshot and sent it to Priya. Priya's mouth tightened. "Good," she said. "She can't resist a stage where she thinks she wins." At 10:58 the next morning, Vanessa arrived alone, not in bridal lace, in a dark coat and heels that clicked like punctuation. She carried a folder and, on her keychain, a small metal thumb drive, her insurance. I let her in. She didn't sit like a guest. She sat like an auditor. "Show me," she demanded. I didn't hand her the real letters. I handed her a photocopy of one line, Harold's warning. Cropped so it was true, but incomplete. "Evelyn, do not trust them. Vanessa read it and her jaw tightened. "That old man hated me," she hissed. "He barely knew you," I replied. Vanessa leaned forward, eyes sharp. "What do you want?" she asked. I kept my tone tight on purpose. "I want peace," I said. "I want the harassment to stop. I want my son's wedding to happen without this." Vanessa's smile returned, slow. "Then sign," she said, and slid documents across my table. I didn't pick up the pen. I pointed at the thumb drive. "What's that?" I asked. Vanessa smirked. "Proof," she said. "Proof of what?" I asked. She set the drive down between us like she was placing a weapon on the table. "Proof you're not stable," she said. "Proof you agreed to sell. Proof I can bury you if you try to bury me." I let my face remain calm, but inside I noted every word. She said bury, not defend, not fight, bury. The doorbell rang. Vanessa's head snapped toward it, suspicion flaring. I didn't move quickly. Probably a delivery. I said, when I opened the door, a florist stood there holding white lilies. "Delivery for Ms. Vanessa Hart," he said politely. "Paid for. Note says, for the bride, congratulations." Vanessa's face tightened as she took the bouquet. She opened the note, read it, and her skin went pale. "What is it?" I asked softly. She crumpled the note and shoved it in her pocket. "Nothing." She snapped too fast. The florist backed away, uncomfortable, and left. Vanessa turned on me, anger sharp enough to cut. "You think you're clever," she hissed. "I think you're nervous," I replied calmly. Vanessa's nostrils flared. She grabbed her folder and stood. "Sign today," she said, "or I'll make sure everyone thinks you're unsafe to live alone." I held her gaze. "Did Grant tell you to say that?" I asked. Her eyes flashed. "Grant doesn't tell me anything," she snapped. "He pays me." There, a line the jury would love. But Vanessa didn't stay long enough for us to take the drive. She left with it, bouquet in hand, heels striking my porch like threats. As soon as her car disappeared, Priya's text arrived from her car down the road. She confessed enough. Good work. Next step is Ryan. Because the trap wasn't just Vanessa. It was the hinge she'd been using. My son. And to pull the hinge out, we had to make Ryan see Vanessa without the wedding fog, which meant the next conversation couldn't happen in my house. It had to happen in hers, at Lakeview Suites. Ryan came to my house that night, like a man walking into a room he'd already set on fire. He didn't bring pastries. He didn't bring confidence. He stood in my kitchen with his hands shoved into his pockets and his eyes fixed on the floor, like he was trying to find a version of himself down there that hadn't done any of this. "I can't sleep," he said quietly. I didn't offer comfort. I offered structure. "Sit," I said, pointing to the chair across from me. He sat. Nolan stood near the hallway, quiet but present. Priya had already explained to Ryan in precise legal language that anything he said from now on could save him or bury him. Ryan swallowed. "Vanessa want me to bring you to closing," he admitted. I didn't ask how he knew. I asked the next rung up the ladder. Who told her to say that? I asked. Ryan's mouth tightened. "Grant," he whispered. Nolan stepped forward and set a small recorder on the table. "Then we need Grant on record," he said. Ryan stared at it like it was a grenade. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. I looked at my son, and instead of answering with anger, I answered with a choice. "You're going to go to her," I said, "and you're going to let her talk." Ryan flinched. "You want me to spy? You already betrayed me in private." I said evenly, "Now you can repair something in public, or you can keep being used." He swallowed hard. "She'll know," he whispered. Nolan shook his head once. "She won't," he said, "because she thinks she owns you." Ryan's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, and I saw the screen light his face. A text from Vanessa. "Where are you? Don't make me look stupid again." Ryan's fingers tightened around the phone. I didn't tell him what to write. I watched what he chose. He typed quickly. "On my way. I'm sorry." He hit send and looked at me like he wanted approval. I didn't give him approval. I gave him the recorder. Nolan clipped it inside Ryan's jacket, near the seam. "One button," he said. "Don't poke it. Don't narrate. Ask questions like you're confused, not like you're accusing." Ryan nodded, shallow breaths. "And Ryan," Priya added, voice calm, "if she shows you documents or devices, do not touch them unless she hands them to you." Ryan's eyes flicked up. "Why?" he asked. "Because chain of custody," Priya said. "We win clean." He nodded again, jaw clenched. I watched him leave, and for the first time since this began, I felt something that wasn't sadness. It was the cold clarity of knowing this was no longer mother versus son. It was mother versus machine, and my son was either a gear or a witness. At the same time, Ryan drove to Lakeview Suites. Priya and I sat at my kitchen table with Nolan's laptop open. We weren't watching video. We were listening. The audio feed came through faintly, sometimes muffled by fabric, the hum of a hotel hallway, a door opening, a TV somewhere down the corridor. Then Ryan's voice tight. "Vanessa?" A pause. Vanessa's voice cut through, sharp and pleased. "You actually came." "I needed to talk," Ryan said. Vanessa laughed under her breath. "You always need to talk," she replied. "Come in." A soft thud. Door closing. I leaned slightly closer to the speaker, not because it helped the audio, but because my mind wanted to feel close enough to control the moment. Ryan spoke carefully, following Nolan's coaching. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't have questioned you. I'm trying to be on your side." Vanessa exhaled with satisfaction. "Good," she said. "Then stop going to your mother like a child." Ryan's voice trembled. "Grant is angry," he said. Vanessa snorted. "Grant is always angry," she replied. "That's why he wins." Priya's pen moved over her pad. "Not emotion. Not commentary. Facts," Ryan asked. "Vanessa, did you know Grant before you met me?" A small pause, barely there, but my stomach tightened anyway. Vanessa laughed too lightly. "Why are you asking that?" she said. Ryan pushed, voice shaky. "Just tell me." Vanessa sighed as if he bored her. "Yes," she admitted. "I knew him." Ryan's breath hitched. "How?" "I worked with him," Vanessa said, and the way she said work made my skin crawl. Acquisition strategy. Acquisition strategy. Ryan's voice cracked. "So you targeted me." Vanessa scoffed. "Grow up," she snapped. "I chose you. You were lonely. You wanted to feel like a man. I gave you that." Ryan sounded like he was swallowing something sharp. "You chose me because of my mom," he said. Vanessa's voice went colder. "I chose you because you were easy," she said. "And your mother was predictable." Predictable. That's what predators call decency. Ryan whispered, "This is fraud." Vanessa laughed, soft and contemptuous. "Yes," she said. "The deed, the notary, the fake ID. You think you're innocent because you didn't hold the pen? Please." Priya's pen paused for one beat, then moved faster. Vanessa continued, voice brisk, operational now. "And if you mess this up," she said, "Grant will come for me. So you're going to do your job. You're going to finish what you started." Ryan's voice shook. "What job?" Vanessa answered without hesitation. "Get her signature," she said. "Get the corridor. Get the structure off the land." Then she said the sentence that made my face go cold. "Old women like her sit on land and do nothing with it." Vanessa snapped. "It's disgusting." My hand tightened around my mug. The ceramic creaked faintly. Ryan asked, "What about the money?" Vanessa's voice brightened with greed. "In the walls," she said. "That's why Grant wanted the structure. Harold used it like a bank." "In the walls." I felt Nolan's gaze flick toward me. Then Ryan said, voice small, "I don't want to do this anymore." Vanessa's tone sharpened instantly. "You don't get to quit," she hissed. "Do you want Grant to know you failed?" Ryan's breathing turned ragged. A quick sound, movement, fabric shifting. Vanessa snapped, "Sit down." Ryan said, "No." A beat of silence so tight I could hear a faint hotel AC hum through the recorder. Then a sharp sound cut through. A slap. Ryan gasped. Priya's eyes hardened like stone. Vanessa's voice dropped, intimate and vicious. "Don't embarrass me," she whispered. "If you walk out, I'll tell them you forged your signature. I'll bury you." Ryan's voice shook with pain and anger. "You already did," he said quietly. Footsteps. Fast. Door opening. Vanessa shouted, "Ryan." Then the audio cracked into static as he moved out of range. I sat very still, breathing carefully through my nose, letting my body stay calm even as something inside me wanted to stand up and tear the walls down. Priya clicked her pen closed. "We have confession," she said. "We have motive. We have assault." Nolan nodded once. "And we have her naming Grant as coordinator," he added. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Ryan. She hit me. "I'm done. Coming back." I typed one line and sent it before I could overthink it. "Come home. We do this the right way." Ryan arrived within the hour, cheek red, eyes wild. He didn't walk in like a groom. He walked in like a man who finally understood he'd been standing too close to a cliff. He stopped in my kitchen, hands trembling. "I'm sorry," he said. I didn't answer that word. I answered with action. Priya arrived behind him 10 minutes later, carrying a single-page document, an affidavit. "Ryan," she said, "this is your cooperation statement. It says it will provide full details, surrender devices, and testify." Ryan stared at it. "If I sign this," he whispered, "Grant will come for me." Priya didn't soften. "Grant is already coming," she said. "This decides whether you're under him or against him." Ryan swallowed, then looked at me. I didn't reassure him with promises. I gave him truth. "Ryan," I said, "you accepted his money. You became his asset. The only way back is honesty that hurts." Ryan's tears spilled. He signed. His signature shook, but it landed. The next morning, Deputy Hargrove met us at the station. The building smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. A radio crackled somewhere behind the door. Static and clipped voices. Hargrove listened to the recording with a face that didn't change, but his jaw tightened at the slap. When it ended, he looked at Priya. "We can move," he said. Priya nodded. "We need her devices," she said. "Laptop, thumb drive, any documents about capacity and POA." Hargrove's eyes flicked to me. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "did she threaten to accuse you of incompetence?" "She planned it." I replied, "And she tampered with my medication." Hargrove's expression hardened. "Then we move fast," he said. His phone rang. He answered, listened, then looked up. "She posted bail already," he said. "Grant's people paid." "Of course they did." "Where is she?" Nolan asked. "Hanging around Lakeview Suites," Hargrove replied. "We have units nearby." Priya's phone chimed. Email notification. She opened it and her eyebrows lifted. "Closing moved up," she said. I leaned in. "When?" "Thursday," she replied. "Tomorrow morning." They were trying to finish the theft before the law could fully put its boots on. Hargrove exhaled once. "All right," he said. "We go to Lakeview. We didn't parade in with drama. We went with paper. A warrant." In the Lakeview lobby, the clerk's smile vanished at the sight of uniforms. Hargrove showed the warrant. The clerk's hands moved quickly, eager to comply with authority. Elevator. Second floor. Hallway that smelled like air freshener and damp towels. Room 214. The deputy knocked. No answer. Master key. Door opening. Vanessa's perfume hit us immediately. That same sharp floral that didn't belong anywhere peaceful. The room was dim. Curtains drawn. Bed unmade like someone left in a hurry. Hargrove moved first, scanning, then nodded. Clear. Nolan didn't touch anything. He pointed. "Laptop," he said quietly. On the desk sat a closed laptop. Hargrove put on gloves and opened it. Password prompt. He didn't guess. Bag it, he said. The second deputy photographed everything. Desk, nightstand, closet, suitcase. In the suitcase, they found a white folder. Hargrove opened it carefully. Capacity Action Plan, Evelyn Carter. A document designed to erase my autonomy. Under it, a draft power of attorney packet executed, with my forged signature and a photocopy of my driver's license. My throat went tight, but I didn't speak. I let the deputies photograph, bag, and tag. Then Nolan opened the dresser drawer and froze. He lifted out a small velvet pouch and tipped it into a gloved palm. Keys, one labeled in tiny handwriting. Basement. My basement. Bag. Priya said instantly. The second deputy checked the nightstand drawer and produced a burner phone. Hargrove held it up. That's not her main device, he said. Priya's voice stayed calm. Forensics, she replied. Immediate. Then Hargrove pulled something else from the folder, something that made my lungs tighten. A handwritten letter. Mark's handwriting. The letter Mark wrote Ryan. Vanessa had stolen it. Hargrove photographed it, then slid it into an evidence bag like it was gold. In the bathroom, a deputy opened the medicine cabinet mirror and found a small baggie taped inside. White powder. A folded note. My stomach turned cold. Priya's eyes went hard. That's your medical consultant, she murmured. Hargrove nodded once. This is evidence tampering, he said. Possession, he added, then turned to the deputy. Log it. When we left the room, I didn't feel relief yet. Relief comes after the last loose end stops moving, and I could feel loose and still moving. By the time we returned to the station, Vanessa was already in the parking lot, suitcase in hand, arguing with an officer. Hargrove stepped toward her. Ms. Hart, he said, we're executing a search warrant. You are being detained for additional questioning. Vanessa's face flashed fury. Then she pivoted to performance. You can't, she cried loudly. This is harassment. I'm a bride. I have a wedding. Then her eyes found me, and the performance cracked into something real. Hatred. This is your fault, she snapped. You bitter old woman. I didn't respond with insult. I responded with certainty. Never confuse a roof with the ground it stands on, I said quietly. Vanessa lunged forward as if to strike. 2 officers restrained her. Cuffs clicked. The sound was clean and final. Vanessa stopped crying instantly and hissed at Ryan, who had arrived at the station behind us, face gray. You did this, she spat. You weak, stupid boy. Ryan flinched. Vanessa, she laughed, sharp. Don't say my name like you love me, she snapped. You were a bridge. Bridge. The word landed in the open air of the parking lot, and I watched Ryan's face crumble as a fantasy finally died in him. As they put Vanessa into the cruiser, she twisted her neck and screamed one more line at me. You think you're winning? She shouted. You don't even know what he already did. The same poison she'd used before. My skin went cold, because she wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to warn me, or threaten me with a fact. Hargrove closed the cruiser door and approached me. Mrs. Carter, he said, she's trying to shift blame, but we'll see what's real once we extract her devices. I nodded. Do it, I said. That night, Nolan and Priya came back to my house with an evidence receipt list from the search. On it were items that mattered more than any wedding ring. Laptop, burner phone, capacity action plan, draft POA, keys, powder, Mark's letter. Priya read the list, then looked up. The thumb drive was in her room, she said. My stomach tightened. She had it at my house, I said. Nolan's eyes sharpened. Then she moved it, he replied, or someone moved it for her. My phone buzzed with an email from my bank. Subject, confirmation of power of attorney. I opened it with my heart steady, and my mind already expecting the worst. Appointed agent, Ryan Carter. My throat went dry. They processed it, I said. Priya's eyes hardened. We handle it first thing, she said. But Evelyn, check your account now. I logged in. My hands were steady on the keyboard, but my pulse pressed heavy against my ribs. Under pending transfers was one line that made my vision narrow. $48,000. Lakeview Medical Consulting. Memo. Capacity evaluation. I did the math out loud, not because I needed to understand it, but because I needed to hear it. 48. I whispered. They were going to buy a whole story. Nolan leaned closer. Cancel it, he said. I canceled the transfer, froze what I could, changed passwords, and documented every screen with screenshots. Priya watched without speaking. When I finished, she nodded once. Good, she said. Now the bank becomes part of our case. My phone rang. Ryan. I answered and put it on speaker. Mom, he whispered, I just got served in my apartment. A civil suit. Grant is suing me. I didn't react to his panic. Good, I said quietly. Ryan blinked into silence. Good, he repeated. Yes, I replied, because it means he's scared enough to lash out. And scared people make paper trails. Ryan's voice cracked. He says, I owe him money, he whispered. You do, I said, and you'll pay it back the right way. With a job, not with my land. Ryan swallowed, breath shaky. What happens to me? He asked. I didn't lie. You face consequences, I said, and you tell the truth. That night, Priya called a forensic technician handling Vanessa's devices. We didn't get everything, but we got enough for the next move. At 7:06 a.m., Priya's voice came through my phone like a blade. They cloned a drive, she said. It's worse than we thought. I sat at my kitchen table and waited for her to arrive, watching sunlight crawl slowly across my worn-wood floor. When she walked in with Nolan, she didn't sit down first. She opened her laptop and turned it toward me. Folders. Carter _ Evelyn _ medical. Notary. Kendra. Grant _ payments. Ryan _ script. Priya clicked Ryan _ script. My stomach tightened as I read the first lines. Mom is emotional. Stay calm. Repeat. Family comes first. If she refuses, pivot to guilt. You're choosing a house over your son. My son hadn't just spoken to me. He performed a script designed to move me. Priya clicked Grant _ payments. A spreadsheet opened. October 3rd, $30,000, Ryan deposit. Wedding pressure. October 3rd, $2,500, Notary Pike, expedite. 10/04, $4,000. Kendra, ID/appearance. October 10th, $15,000, medical consultant, capacity affidavit. 10/$8,000, Ryan, keep him compliant. I stare at the words keep him compliant until my jaw tightened. Then Nolan clicked into a folder labeled Evelyn Cash. Photos loaded. My hallway wall. The baseboard removed. The metal panel exposed. The oilcloth bundle on my coffee table. But the timestamp was wrong. 3 days before Nolan and Priya had found it with me. My throat went tight. Someone opened it earlier. Nolan said quietly, I didn't ask who. I already knew who had keys, who had time, who had motive. My phone rang. Ryan. I answered and put it on speaker. Mom, he said, voice raw, I messed up. You opened the wall, I said calmly. Silence. Then his whisper. Yes. How long ago? I asked. Before Nolan came. Ryan admitted. Vanessa told me there was money. She said we needed it. I didn't ask if he felt guilty. I asked for inventory. What did you take? I said, nothing. He said too fast. Priya's eyes narrowed. Ryan. I said quietly, I'm looking at photos on Vanessa's drive. This isn't a guess. What did you take? His breath hitched. An envelope, he admitted. Which one? I asked. The one with your name, he whispered. Evelyn, do not trust them. Where is it? I asked. In my glove box, he said. I didn't want Vanessa to see it. Bring it, I said. Now. When the call ended, Priya leaned back slightly, face tight. He's still managing information, she said. Nolan's voice was blunt. But he's also scared, he replied. That makes him usable. Ryan arrived an hour later, pale, with the envelope in his hand. He held it out without meeting my eyes. I took it and opened it at my kitchen table with Priya and Nolan watching. Inside was Harold's letter to me, a warning, a boundary, and a line underlined twice. Never confuse a roof with the ground it stands on. My throat tightened, but I kept my face still. Then I read the part that mattered most for what came next. If Ryan tries to take the land, cut him off. Loving him doesn't mean rewarding him. I folded the letter carefully and set it down. Ryan's voice shook. Mom, I didn't take cash, he said quickly. Vanessa wanted it. She said we'd split it. I got scared. Nolan leaned forward. Did she take anything from the wall? He asked. Ryan hesitated. She took envelopes, he admitted. She said she needed proof for Grant. Proof. Always leverage. Priya's phone chimed. A new email. Her eyes narrowed as she read. They filed an emergency motion for a competency evaluation, she said. Grant's counsel is trying to force a judge to order you assessed. I exhaled slowly. They're rushing, I said. Because their timeline is collapsing, Priya replied. And they still think you can be pushed. Nolan looked at me. Then we stop being pushed, he said. We choose a stage. My phone buzzed with a text from Marla, Ryan's friend's wife, someone I hadn't spoken to beyond holidays. I opened it, and my eyes narrowed. Evelyn. I overheard Vanessa at the engagement dinner. She said, if Evelyn doesn't sign, we'll make it look like she's not safe to live alone. Then we take over. A witness. A crack in Vanessa's social armor. I showed Priya. Priya nodded once. We take her statement today, she said. And Evelyn, if they want to make you look unsafe, we check your medication immediately. I went to my bathroom, opened my pill bottle, and counted. The number was off by 3. On the cabinet shelf near the back corner was a faint dusting of powder. I didn't shout. I photographed it. Then I called Hargrove. By the time I hung up, my house no longer felt like it had been invaded only by paper. It had been invaded by intent, to alter my body, to alter my mind, to alter my credibility. When Hargrove arrived, he photographed the cabinet, bagged what he could, took my statement, and his face went hard. They crossed a line, he said. They crossed it the day they forged my signature. I replied, now we can prove it. 2 days later, the judge denied Grant's emergency motion. Priya delivered the news with a tone that was satisfied but not relaxed. The judge wasn't impressed, she said. Your doctor's letter and our documentation helped. So they lost, I said. For now, Priya replied. They pivot. They pivoted to the wedding. Vanessa was still trying to hold the stage. Grant was still trying to hold the corridor. And Ryan, caught between fear and guilt, was still the hinge they thought they could swing. Then Vanessa called Ryan from jail processing, or from wherever the system held her temporarily. He answered on speaker in my living room, hands shaking. Her voice came through honey-sweet and deadly. Baby, she said, there you are. Ryan swallowed. Vanessa. Her tone snapped. Don't use that voice, she hissed. Where are you? At my mom's, he admitted. Vanessa laughed softly. Still hiding, she said. Pathetic. Ryan's voice trembled. You stole her medication, he said. Vanessa sighed theatrically. Oh my God, she said. Is that what she's telling you now? That crazy old. Did you? Ryan demanded. Vanessa's voice went cold. I did what I had to do, she said. Grant said we needed her wobbly. That's all. Grant said. Ryan's breath hitched. You could have killed her, he whispered. Vanessa scoffed. Don't be dramatic, she replied. And don't forget why you're here. You're still marrying me. Ryan's head snapped up. What? Vanessa's voice lowered. Intimate poison. The wedding, she said. You're going to stand there and smile. And after the vows, you're going to bring your mother to the head table and make her sign, or I will bury you." Ryan's eyes went wide, and I felt my own stomach tighten, because now I understood something. The wedding wasn't a celebration. It was an ambush. Vanessa was planning to corner me in public, with witnesses and cameras, to force a signature under social pressure, so any later claim of coercion would look like confusion. And Grant wanted it, because public shame is faster than court. Vanessa's voice sharpened. "And if you think I don't have more on you, Ryan, you're wrong." Ryan swallowed hard. "What do you have?" he whispered. Vanessa laughed softly. "Ask your mother about Mark's letter," she said. "The one you never told her you found." Then the line went dead. Ryan sat frozen, face gray. I kept my voice calm, but it was colder than before. "Mark's letter," I said. "Where is it?" Ryan's mouth trembled. "Vanessa took it," he whispered. "Of course she did, because letters are leverage, and leverage is how she ate." I looked at Priya. "We're going to the wedding," I said. Priya's eyes narrowed. "Evelyn." "We go," I repeated, "but we go with witnesses. We go with documents. We go with deputies if needed. We go with our own script." Nolan nodded slowly. "Public stage cuts both ways," he said. Ryan whispered, "I don't want to marry her." "You may not," I replied, "but you will stand long enough to help finish this." And that was the moment Act 3 began, clean and sharp. No more reacting. We were setting the trap where they thought they were strongest. The last 48 hours before the wedding felt nothing like wedding time. No dresses, no flowers, no joyful errands. It was evidence time. Priya moved through my life with the calm precision of someone tightening bolts on a bridge. Every conversation had a purpose. Every paper had a folder. Every screenshot had a backup. "You don't walk into their stage unprepared," she told me the night before. "You walk in carrying your own lighting." I nodded once. "And my own witnesses," I said. Priya's mouth tightened in approval. "Exactly." The next morning, a new person arrived at my door with a quiet knock. A woman in a plain suit, hair pinned back, expression neutral enough to be trusted. "Mrs. Carter?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "I'm Lydia Cho," she said, holding up a small card. "Court reporter. Ms. Patel retained me for today." A court reporter. Someone whose job was not to interpret, not to sympathize, not to gossip, just to capture words cleanly, the way they were said. I stepped aside. "Come in," I said. Lydia's eyes moved over my living room once. Not nosy, just assessing where she could sit to hear clearly. Priya followed behind her carrying a hard-sided case. Inside were copies of everything. The certified land title, the injunction, the doctor's capacity letter, the county fraud flag confirmation, the notary statement, the audio transcript excerpts, and a timeline Priya had typed so neatly it looked like it belonged in a textbook. Nolan came in last, checked the window locks without speaking, then set a small tablet on my kitchen table. "That's your wedding insurance," he said, tapping it lightly. The audio of Grant and Vanessa, the Lakeview confession, the bank alert screenshots, all backed up. I kept my face calm. Inside, my mind was already rehearsing what I would not do. I would not shout. I would not plead. I would not try to make the room love me. I would let the room see what they had done. Because the truth doesn't need volume. It needs light. Before we left for the venue, Priya placed one final document in front of me, my amended trust. She didn't slide it dramatically. She slid like a nurse sliding a consent form, quiet, serious. "Today or tomorrow," she said, "Grant's counsel will try to argue you're acting out of spite or confusion. This document, combined with Dr. Klein's letter, shows planning, capacity, and intent." I read the first page, then signed where Priya indicated. Lydia watching, Nolan witnessing, my doctor's letter tucked into the back of the file like a spine. My signature landed steady and clean. Priya nodded. "Good," she said. "Now if they try the competency narrative again, we meet it with math and witnesses." Ryan stood in my living room in his tux, hands shaking as he fixed his cufflinks. He looked like a man in costume, not because a tux is a costume, but because he didn't know what role he was playing anymore. He kept clearing his throat, like he could clear away weeks of choices. "Mom," he whispered, "I don't want to do this." I didn't soothe him. I didn't lash him either. "Then stand there and tell the truth when it matters," I said quietly. "Not before, not after, when—" He swallowed hard and nodded once. His phone buzzed. A text. "Vanessa, where are you? Don't make me chase you." Ryan's face tightened. Priya watched him. "No contact order," she reminded him. Ryan's fingers hovered. Then he slid the phone into his pocket without replying. That was the first boundary I'd seen him keep without being forced. It didn't erase what he'd done, but it mattered. On the drive to the venue, rain hung in the air without falling, the sky the color of dull metal. My hands rested in my lap, my folder strapped by the seatbelt like a passenger. Lydia sat behind me, her small recorder case on her knees, posture upright. Nolan followed in his car, and Priya drove separately, coordinating with Deputy Hargrove by text. When we arrived, the venue looked exactly like Vanessa's dream. White lilies in tall vases, candlelight on every surface, soft strings playing from speakers, a scent of perfume and food and polished wood. The lobby buzzed with guests, smiling faces, hugging relatives, people taking photos like this was a storybook. I walked in quietly, calm, the way you walk into a church when you don't want to disturb prayers. Heads turned anyway. They always do when a difficult mother enters a room. I could feel the preloaded narrative sitting on people's tongues, just waiting for confirmation. A bridesmaid, young, glossy hair, perfect teeth, stepped into my path with a wide smile. "Evelyn," she chirped. "Oh my gosh, you made it. Vanessa is going to be so relieved." Relieved. I nodded politely. "I'm here," I said. The bridesmaid leaned closer, lowering her voice as if we were sharing a secret. "She's been under so much stress," she whispered. "You know how older parents can be with change." Older parents. I met her eyes and let my smile stay small. "Yes," I said, "I do." Then I walked past her without explaining, because I wasn't here to compete for sympathy. I was here to end an attempted theft. Just before the ceremony began, I stepped into a side hallway to breathe. The air was cooler there, smelling faintly of storage boxes and bleach. The noise from the ballroom softened into a distant hum. A door at the end of the hall was cracked open, and through it I heard Vanessa's voice. Low, fast, furious. "I don't care if she's here," Vanessa snapped. "She'll sign." Grant moved closing. "We do it tonight if we have to." A man's voice answered her, soft and controlled. "Not Ryan. Grant. I told you not to get arrested," Grant said quietly. Vanessa hissed. "I got bailed out, didn't I? Don't act like you didn't enjoy watching them scramble." Grant's voice sharpened. "I don't enjoy exposure," he said. "After the vows, you get the signature. You get the corridor. Then you get rid of the mother." Vanessa laughed softly. "Gladly." My fingers tightened around my folder handle, but my breathing stayed even. Grant continued, colder. "And the cash in the walls?" Vanessa's tone turned greedy. "Mine," she said. "You promise." "I don't care about that," Grant replied. "I care about access." Vanessa's voice went low and dangerous. "Don't forget who got you this far," she warned. A beat of silence. Then Grant said, "You're replaceable." Vanessa replied, sweet as poison. "So is your corridor." Blackmail. Even she was squeezing him now. I backed away from the door without a sound. My heart wasn't racing. My mind was arranging. They were already turning on each other. Good. The ceremony itself was a blur of practiced romance. The officiant spoke about love and trust, while two people who had built their relationship on coercion stood smiling under warm lights. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I didn't stand. Not because I couldn't. Because stopping a wedding is emotional theater. Stopping a crime is different. The applause came after the kiss. People cheered. Glasses clinked. Vanessa turned, veil shifting like smoke. Scanning the crowd until her eyes found me. She smiled. A bride smile for the audience. A predator's smile for the obstacle. I gave her nothing back. At the reception, the room transformed into a glowing stage. Roast chicken and butter rolls scented the air. Champagne popped. The band tuned instruments. Guests laughed louder than they needed to, the way they do when they want to prove they're having fun. Grant stood near the bar in a dark suit, holding a drink he barely touched. His eyes moved over the room like he was counting assets. When he saw me, he smiled faintly. Not friendly. Ownership. My phone buzzed. A text from Marla, the friend's wife who'd promised to tell the truth. She's telling people you finally agreed. She's pre-framing you as sensitive. Be careful. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to Priya, without replying. Then I watched Vanessa glide table to table, laughing, hugging, posing for photos, turn her arrests and bail and threats into a story no one could see. Not yet. Ryan stood at the head table, stiff, eyes darting too often toward the doors. Lydia sat at a side table near me, posture calm, hands ready. Nolan stood near the back wall, like part of the venue staff, blending into shadows the way professionals do. Priya wasn't visible. Not yet. She wasn't there to perform. She was there to strike when timing mattered. When it was time for toast, Ryan took the microphone. The room quieted with a happy expectation of sentimental words. Vanessa stood beside him, hand on his arm like a leash disguised as devotion. Ryan cleared his throat. Thank you, he began, voice thin, for being here, for supporting us. Vanessa leaned in and whispered something into his ear, smiling at the crowd. Ryan's eyes flicked toward me. He looked like he wanted to bolt. Then his phone lit up on the head table. A bank alert, bright screen in dim candlelight. $48,000 transfer initiated. Lakeview Medical Consulting. Ryan's face drained. His fingers tightened around the microphone, as if he might drop it. Vanessa's smile faltered by a hair, then hardened again, and I understood the real cruelty of that alert. Even after I canceled the transfer and froze what I could, Ryan's power of attorney authority still existed in the bank system long enough for someone, him, Vanessa, Grant, one of their people, to reinitiate it at the worst possible moment, to force him to comply, to force him to panic, to remind him who owned his fear. Vanessa whispered through her smile, "Now!" Ryan swallowed, eyes wide. I stood, not abruptly, not dramatically. I rose like someone going to refill her water. I picked up my manila folder and walked toward the head table. The band's background music softened, then stopped as if the musicians could feel the air change. Forks paused. Conversations died mid-sentence. I crossed the dance floor in calm steps. I could smell roses and champagne, and the faint sweat of too many bodies in a warm room. Ryan's voice cracked into the microphone. "Mom, what are you doing?" I didn't answer him yet. I reached the head table and set my folder down with a soft slap, cardboard on wood. Final. Vanessa leaned in, eyes sharp. "You are not ruining my wedding," she hissed. I opened the folder. The first page was a certified land title. I turned it toward Ryan and Vanessa, then angled it so the nearest tables could see the raised seal. "I own the land," I said, voice steady enough to carry. A ripple moved through the room. Someone whispered, "Land?" Vanessa's mouth tightened. "That's irrelevant," she snapped. "It's everything," I replied. The ballroom doors opened. Heavy, measured, Deputy Hargrove stepped in with another officer, uniform cutting through candlelight and lace like a blade. His radio crackled once, static and a clipped voice, then fell quiet again. Hargrove walked straight toward the head table. Ryan stared at him like he was watching a nightmare become real. "Ryan Carter?" Hargrove said. Ryan's lips parted. "Yes." "You are being served," Hargrove said, placing a document on the table. Notice of injunction. Notice of fraud allegations. And you are under arrest on suspicion of identity misuse and attempted illegal conveyance. A gasp erupted from somewhere near the dessert table. Vanessa laughed too loudly. "This is insane," she said, performing disbelief. "This is a private event. He can't arrest my husband because his mother is having an episode." I didn't look at Vanessa. I looked at Ryan, because I wanted the room to see where the problem began. Ryan's hands trembled. "Mom," he whispered, and the microphone picked it up, amplify his voice to every corner. Hargrove's eyes moved to Ryan's phone, still lit with a bank alert. "Mr. Carter," he said, "unlock your phone." Vanessa snapped. "No." Hargrove didn't acknowledge her. "Unlock it," he repeated. Ryan hesitated. Vanessa leaned close, voice sharp and low. "Don't," she hissed. "They can't take it." Hargrove stepped closer. "Unlock," he said, calm and immovable. Ryan's throat bobbed. He unlocked it with shaking fingers. Hargrove took the phone and scrolled once. His expression tightened. "Power of attorney filings," he said quietly, for the benefit of the officer beside him. The words floated into the room like poison. A guest near the front whispered, "Power of attorney?" Vanessa's smile snapped into something vicious. "It's standard," she said brightly. "Old people need help." I turned my gaze to her then. "I don't need your help," I said calmly. "I need you off my land." Vanessa's eyes flashed. "You're an ungrateful." Priya stepped into view at that moment, moving to my side like a door closing. "Ms. Hart," Priya said, voice calm and lethal, "stop speaking. Anything you say here will be entered into the record." Vanessa's nostrils flared. "Who are you?" she snapped, though her eyes said she knew exactly who Priya was. Priya didn't blink. "Priya Patel," she said, "attorney for Evelyn Carter." Hargrove nodded to his fellow deputy. "Cuff him," he said. The deputy reached for Ryan's wrist. Ryan's knees buckled slightly. "Mom," he whispered again. I didn't reach for him. I didn't touch him. I kept my voice steady so it would carry through the room, without sounding like a performance. "Ryan," I said, "a roof can be moved. Land can't." Ryan's face crumpled. Vanessa turned on him like a switch flipped. "You idiot," she hissed, loud enough for the nearest tables. "I told you to keep her quiet." Ryan stared at her, shocked even now. "You said you loved me," he said, voice breaking into the microphone. Vanessa scoffed. "Love," she repeated with contempt. "You were a bridge." A wave of gasps rolled across the room. Grant Weller stepped forward from the bar at last, smoothing his suit jacket as if he could smooth the situation too. "Deputy," he said pleasantly, "this is a civil dispute. Your presence is unnecessary." Hargrove's eyes met his without warmth. "Mr. Weller," he said. Grant's smile tightened. "We've met." "Not officially," Hargrove replied. "Not until now. You've been served notice of injunction. You are not to contact Mrs. Carter or enter her property." Grant pinched the paper between two fingers like it might stain him. "Noted," he said. Vanessa turned to Grant, panic leaking through her rage. "Fix this," she hissed. Grant's eyes flicked to her, irritation sharp. "Stop talking," he muttered. Vanessa snapped back. "Don't tell me what to do. This is your mess, too." And there it was. The moment the room finally saw the truth. This wasn't a bride and groom. This was a business deal with a wedding cake. I reached into my folder and pulled out Dr. Klein's capacity letter. Another document, crisp and official. I held it up so the nearest tables could see letterhead and signature. "My doctor disagrees with your narrative," I said. Vanessa's face went pale, then red. "That's fake," she spat. Priya's voice stayed calm. "It was obtained before today," she said, "and it will be introduced in court." Grant's gaze moved to my folder like he was calculating whether any of it could be bought back. He opened his mouth as if to speak. Nolan stepped forward from the back wall, tablet in hand. "Grant," Nolan said, voice clear, "do you want to hear your own words?" Grant's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" he demanded. Nolan didn't answer the question. He tapped his tablet. Grant's voice filled the ballroom, tinny but unmistakable. You show up to closing tomorrow. You bring your mother. You make her sign. The room went dead quiet. Even Vanessa stopped breathing for a second. Grant's face hardened. His smile vanished completely. Vanessa's eyes went wide, then snapped toward Grant with fury. You recorded him? She hissed at Nolan, then turned to Grant. You told me you had this handled. Grant's jaw tightened. Shut up, he said. Vanessa laughed, wild. Now you want me quiet? She snapped. After you promised. Hargrove stepped between them. Ms. Hart, he said, you are in violation of bail conditions and under investigation for identity fraud and evidence tampering. You're being detained. Vanessa shrieked. This is harassment. She's manipulating you. Hargrove cuffed her. Metal clicked. The sound cut through the room like a gavel. Vanessa's tears began instantly, loud and theatrical. I'm a bride, she cried. This is elder abuse. But the guests weren't looking at her with sympathy anymore. They were looking at her like someone they didn't recognize. Because once you see a mask fall, you can't unsee the face underneath. As Vanessa was led away, she twisted toward me and screamed, voice cracking with rage. You think you won? He already signed everything. You're too late. Then she spat one last line, sharp enough to slice. You don't even know what he already did. The doors swung shut behind her. The band stood frozen, instruments dangling in their hands. A bridesmaid sobbed near the cake table. Someone's mother whispered, Oh my God, like it was a prayer. Grant tried to leave, not running. He was too proud for that, just turning with smooth urgency toward a side exit. Nolan stepped into his path without touching him. Grant's voice dropped. Dangerous. Move, he said. Hargrove turned sharply. Mr. Weller, he said, you are not free to leave. You will remain while we complete service and obtain your statement. Grant's eyes narrowed. Am I under arrest? He asked. Not at this moment, Hargrove replied. Then I'll leave, Grant said. Hargrove stepped closer, calm as stone. If you leave after being ordered to remain, it becomes obstruction. Grant's nostrils flared. For the first time, he looked like a man hearing the word no and realizing it was real. He lifted his hands in mock surrender. Fine, he said. Ask your questions. The venue manager approached Priya, face pale. Ma'am, he whispered. Do we continue? Priya's voice was practical. Clear the room, she said. Preserve all security footage. You may be subpoenaed. The manager nodded frantically and began directing staff. Guests stood in clusters, whispering. Phones out, recording their own versions of truth. Ryan was led away in cuffs, tucks rumpled, eyes empty with shock. As he passed me, he whispered, broken, I didn't think. I didn't let him finish. Thinking comes before signing, I said quietly. Outside, cold air hit my face, carrying the scent of wet pavement and exhaust. Patrol lights flashed blue and red against the venue's white columns. Grant stood near the curb surrounded by officers, posture rigid, eyes flat. He didn't look at me once. Vanessa screamed from the back of a cruiser, voice muffled by glass. This isn't over, she shrieked. Grant, tell them. Grant stared straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge her. That was the clearest truth of the entire night. When an acquisition becomes inconvenient, you drop it. Deputy Hargrove approached me. Mrs. Carter, he said, we're securing devices and filing additional charges. Go home. Nolan will follow you. I nodded. Thank you. I said not warmly, but sincerely, because gratitude, unlike trust, can still exist even in a war. On the drive home, my phone buzzed twice with unknown numbers. I didn't answer. I screenshot the call log and forwarded it to Priya. Then my bank emailed. Subject: confirmation of transfer request. I opened in my driveway, engine idling, hands steady. The $48,000 transfer had been initiated again, and this time the email included a confirmation that the request came from my authorized agent. Ryan. My throat tightened. Even while standing at his own wedding, even while being pulled toward handcuffs, the system still treated him as my authority. I forwarded the email to Priya and Hargrove. Then I went inside and locked my door. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with every lamp on, my camera feeds open, my folder on a coffee table like a shield. At 1:18 a.m., a text arrived from an unknown number. Hoped the dirt was worth it. I stared at it for 3 seconds. Screenshot. Forward to Priya. Block. I didn't type back. I wasn't going to debate with a machine that fed on reaction. At 6:32 a.m., my doorbell rang. Short, controlled. I checked the porch camera. Priya stood there with a man in a suit, holding a briefcase. New character. I opened the door. Evelyn, Priya said, stepping inside. This is Mr. Latham from your bank's fraud and legal department. Mr. Latham's smile was stiff. Mrs. Carter, he said, we're here regarding the power of attorney and attempted transfer requests. I didn't sit. I gestured to my kitchen table. Latham opened his briefcase and produced a stack of revocation forms, each one stamped and dated. Another document. This time, it wasn't a weapon used against me. It was a tool to pull a hook out of my flesh. I need you to sign these, Latham said quickly. We are placing a permanent high-level fraud flag on your accounts. No agent authority will be accepted without in-person verification and a call back to you directly. Priya's voice was crisp. And the bank will cover her legal fees related to this failure, she added. Latham's eyes flicked to Priya, then back to me. We're discussing compensation, he said carefully. I signed the revocations with steady hands. Latham witnessed, then handed me a printed confirmation. The pending transfer is canceled, he said. The authority is suspended, and we are launching an internal investigation. Do it, I replied. After he left, Priya's phone rang. She listened, eyes narrowing. Then she looked at me. Grant was brought in last night for questioning, she said. He refused a hand over a device. They obtained a warrant. He posted bail. My stomach tightened. Out! I asked. For now, Priya replied. But he's not clean. Not with what we have. Nolan's phone buzzed. He glanced down, then showed us the screen. A still image from my porch camera, captured 30 minutes earlier. A black SUV rolling slowly past my mailbox. Then another still. A man stepping out, slipping something into my mailbox. A courier move. A message. We went outside together, Nolan first, scanning. The morning air smelled like damp grass and coal metal. I opened the mailbox. Inside was a thick envelope. No stamp. No return address. Just my name. We carried it inside, photographed it. Then I opened it carefully. A settlement offer from Grant's counsel. $250,000 for a temporary access easement and relocation assistance. In exchange, I would withdraw criminal complaints and sign an NDA covering all parties, including Ryan. Priya read it once, then looked up. They want to buy silence, she said. I set it down. No, I replied. Priya nodded. No, she echoed. My phone rang. Deputy Hargrove. I answered. Yes. Mrs. Carter, he said. Ryan is requesting to speak with you. I closed my eyes briefly. Bring him to Priya's office, I said. That afternoon, Ryan sat across from me in Priya's conference room, wearing wrinkled clothes that smelled faintly of stale holding cell air. He looked smaller without the tux. He looked like a man who had discovered too late that consequences don't care about your wedding registry. Mom, he whispered, I didn't know about the transfer last night. I didn't argue his excuse. I asked a clean question. Did you sign the power of attorney document? I asked, yes or no? Ryan's face contorted. He swallowed hard. Yes, he admitted. Priya slid a single sheet across the table. An affidavit coercion and cooperation. Sign, she said. Ryan's hand shook. If I sign, Grant will come for me, he whispered. He already did, I replied quietly. Now you decide whether you keep feeding him." Ryan stared at the paper for a long moment. Then he signed. Priya didn't celebrate. She nodded once and placed it into her folder. "That's your first step back toward being a person, not a weapon," she told him. 2 days later, Hargrove called with the next escalation. "We picked up Kendra Lark," he said. "The impersonator." I replied, voice flat. "Yes," he said. "She tried to leave town. She had fake IDs and a receipt for a passport photo." Priya, on speaker with me, didn't soften. "She'll talk," she said, "or she'll rot." Hargrove exhaled. "She's offering to cooperate," he said. "She claims Vanessa hired her, paid cash, and she says Vanessa told her, 'If you do this right, Grant will take care of us.'" Grant, always. Nolan's eyes narrowed when I told him. "If Kendra testifies," he said, "Vanessa's defense collapses." "And Grant's," Priya added, "because money trails don't lie when witnesses confirm." That weekend, I walked the back edge of my land where the survey stakes had been. The ground was damp, soft under my boots, smelling like leaves and soil. A thin mist hung between trees like breath. I stood there and let myself feel something I hadn't had time to feel. Not grief, ownership, real ownership of the kind my father meant. Not a bank account, not a deed copy, the right to stand on ground and know no one can move you without your consent. My phone rang. "Ryan." I answered. "Mom," he said quietly, "they offered me a deal. If I testify against Vanessa and Grant, they reduce my charges." I didn't give him comfort. I gave him direction. "Tell the truth," I said. "Fully, even if it costs you." Ryan's breath shook. "Will you ever forgive me?" he asked. I watched fog drift between trees. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "But I won't lie to make you comfortable. Not anymore." Ryan swallowed. "Okay," he whispered. When I ended the call and walked back toward my porch, my foot caught on something near the welcome mat. A small object tucked into the corner like a secret. A key. Shiny. New. A plastic tag attached. "Room 214, Lakeview Suites." My skin went cold. Because Vanessa was in custody now. Grant was under scrutiny. Ryan was restricted. And yet someone had stepped onto my porch close enough to leave a message where my feet would find it. A reminder that the machine still had one loose hand. And I was about to find out whose hand that was. The key lay on my kitchen table under the brightest light I had, looking harmless. It wasn't. Nothing that arrives uninvited in the middle of a property war is harmless. Nolan arrived within minutes of my call. Coat half-buttoned, eyes already narrowed. "Show me the footage," he said. I didn't tell him what I thought it meant. I didn't need to. We were beyond guesswork. I opened the porch camera playback and rewound. A figure appeared at the edge of the frame 22 minutes earlier. Hood up, head down, moving fast but not running. He knelt, slid something into the corner of the mat, then turned. The porch light caught his face. Thin, sharp nose, a faint tattoo on the side of his neck. And then, like he wanted me to understand exactly what he was doing, he looked into my camera, not startled, not afraid, intentional. He walked away. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. "Check your mat. You're welcome." I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Priya and Deputy Hargrove, and didn't answer. Nolan paused the video at the clearest frame and zoomed. "I know that movement," he said quietly. "Not a developer, not a lawyer, a runner, a fixer. The kind of person who walks into a mess after someone like Grant makes it and cleans the loose ends." Nolan's phone buzzed, and he glanced down. Then he looked up at the name. "Tyler Boone," he said. "Partial facial match. Booking photo history. Trespass. Intimidation. Theft." The name landed heavy. "Grant's cleanup," Priya said when Nolan related over speaker. Deputy Hargrove called 10 minutes later. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "do not go to the hotel. Bring the key in. We'll treat it as evidence and a breadcrumb." I did exactly that. At the station, Hargrove bagged the key with gloves, photographed it, and wrote a chain of custody line in neat block letters. Room 214 is still registered under Vanessa's name, he said. We can get a warrant if we establish probable cause evidence is still there. Priya's voice was flat. There will be, she said. They're sloppy when they think you're scared. By late afternoon, Hargrove had the warrant. We went to Lakeview Suites with paper and procedure, not emotion. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and stale carpet. The clerk looked like he wanted to melt into the floor at the sight of uniforms. Hargrove showed the warrant. The clerk nodded quickly. She hasn't been back, he said, but maintenance went in once yesterday for towels. Yesterday, after Vanessa's arrest, after Grant's bail, someone had already had access. We took the elevator up. Second floor hallway. Cheap air freshener. Damp towels. Room 214. Hargrove knocked once. Silence. Master key. Door opened. Vanessa's perfume hit us again. That same sharp floral that had invaded my home the day she walked in with pastries. The room looked half-packed, like someone had tried to clean it, but didn't finish. Hargrove moved first, scanned corners, then nodded. Clear. They photographed everything. Then they opened the suitcase. Inside was a white folder. Capacity Action Plan, Evelyn Carter. A draft POA packet. A photocopy of my license. And a list of talking points labeled media narrative. Frame Evelyn as declining. One line read, emphasize safety. Emphasize family concern. Priya's jaw tightened. She wasn't just planning court, she said quietly. She was planning public opinion. The deputy opened the dresser drawer and pulled out keys. One labeled basement. My stomach tightened, but my hands stayed still at my sides. Then Hargrove held up a handwritten letter. Mark's letter to Ryan. Recovered, bagged, photographed. My throat tightened, and I let myself breathe through it without showing the room what it cost. They found the burner phone in the nightstand. In the bathroom, taped behind the medicine cabinet mirror, a baggie of white powder and a folded note. The deputy photographed it, bagged it, logged it, and with each click of a camera, Vanessa's story got smaller. Back at the station, digital forensics worked through the burner phone. 2 days later, Hargrove called me with a voice that was steady but heavy. Mrs. Carter, he said, we found messages on the burner between Tyler Boone and someone listed as Aunt L. My stomach tightened. Aunt L. I repeated. Hargrove paused. Linda Carter, he said, your sister-in-law. The air in my kitchen changed. My sister-in-law, Mark's sister, the woman who hugged me at the funeral and said we would take care of each other. What do the messages say? I asked, voice calm, because calm is how you keep your mind from splitting. Hargrove read, Aunt L, bank forms are ready. We need Evelyn's signature sample. Can you get it off the holiday card? My throat went tight. Holiday card. Linda had asked me for our Christmas card for a scrapbook, and I'd mailed it because family. Hargrove continued. Got it? She signs the same every time. I'll send. I sat down slowly, not because I was going to collapse, because I needed my body to be still while my mind rearranged my understanding of my own family. Priya, on speaker, didn't soften her voice. That's conspiracy, she said, and it's forgery facilitation. After I hung up, my phone buzzed. A text from Linda. Evelyn, I heard about the wedding mess. Are you okay? Call me. I screenshot it and sent it to Priya. Then I didn't call Linda, because I wanted her to sit in her own uncertainty for once. The next day, she came to my door unannounced carrying a pie carrier like it was a peace treaty. I saw her through the camera feed and waited until she knocked again before I opened the door. I didn't smile. Linda's face lit up anyway, practice warmth snapping into place. Evelyn, she said, stepping forward to hug me. I didn't move. Her arms hovered, then fell. Oh, she said softly, wounded. You're upset. Why are you here, Linda? I asked. She lifted the pie carrier slightly. "I brought you something," she said. "You must be exhausted." The smell of cinnamon leaked faintly from the carrier, and for a split second I remembered every holiday where Linda had played the helpful aunt, the extra set of hands, the family glue. Then I remembered the burner message. I kept my voice calm. "Did you send my signature sample to Tyler Boone?" I asked. Linda's face froze for half a breath. Then she laughed too lightly. "Evelyn, what are you talking about?" she asked. I reached into my folder and produced a printed screenshot of the burner message, redacted enough to be clean, clear enough to be undeniable. Linda stared at it, color drained from her face. Then she did exactly what guilty people do when they realize denial won't work. She got angry. "How dare you accuse me?" she snapped, voice sharp. "After everything I've done for this family." "For Ryan," I corrected. Linda's eyes flared. "He's Mark's son," she hissed. "He deserves something. He deserves a house." "The house is not the land," I replied calmly. "And deserving isn't the same as taking." Linda leaned closer, voice low and ugly. "You think Mark would want this?" she whispered. "Ryan humiliated? Arrested? His wedding destroyed?" I held her gaze. "Mark told me to protect the land," I said, "and to let Ryan learn consequences. You don't get to speak for Mark." Linda's mouth twisted. "You always thought you were better," she snapped. "You married into us and acted like you owned us." I didn't react. "You're on my porch," I said quietly, "and you don't own me." Linda's hands trembled. She set the pie carrier down like she couldn't hold it anymore. "You're going to regret this," she hissed. I nodded once. "Maybe," I said, "but I'd rather regret protecting myself than regret enabling you." Linda walked away stiffly and drove off. I didn't open the pie. I didn't eat it. Trust doesn't come back in a slice. Deputy Hargrove brought Linda in for questioning within days. She lawyered up immediately, but the evidence didn't care about her pearls or her outrage. The machine that had been pointed at me started turning inward. Tyler Boone was arrested on intimidation and conspiracy charges. Kendra Lark, the impersonator, took a deal and agreed to testify. Darlene Pike, the notary, provided her journal and cooperated fully to avoid being charged as a willing participant. Grant tried to play businessman. Vanessa tried to play victim, but neither could rewrite the paper. And paper was what they had worshipped. The criminal trial took months. During those months, Priya and I fought the Civil War alongside it. We voided the fraudulent deeds. We placed permanent fraud flags on the parcel. We forced the title company into a settlement for negligence. We forced my bank into policy changes and compensation. Every week brought a new piece of mail, motions, responses, notices, and I learned to treat each envelope the same way. Photograph, scan, file, no panic, no improvisation. When the criminal case finally reached court, the courtroom smelled like old wood and disinfectant. The benches were hard. The air was too cold. Vanessa sat at the defense table in a conservative blazer, hair pulled back, try to look like the kind of woman juries trust. Grant sat beside his attorneys, posture stiff, expression flat. Ryan sat on the witness side, no longer attached to either of them, his plea deal contingent on telling the truth. The prosecutor opened with a simple frame. "This is a case about the theft of autonomy," she said. "A coordinated scheme to deprive an older homeowner of property and voice through forgery, intimidation, and manipulation of medical perception." Vanessa's attorney tried to make it about family drama. Evelyn Carter resented her son's marriage, he said, voice smooth. She became emotional and... "Objection," the prosecutor said, victim blaming. "Sustained," the judge snapped. Vanessa's jaw tightened. Grant's attorney tried to make it about business. "My client is a developer. He buys structures. He had no intent to harm." The prosecutor didn't argue philosophy. She played audio. Grant's voice filled the room, tinny and clear. "Bring your mother. Make her sign." The jury's eyes shifted to Grant like a spotlight found him. Then came the documents. The spreadsheet, the wires, the scripts, The fake ID copy, the notary journal, the burner phone messages, the Lakeview capacity plan, the medication evidence. Each piece punctuated by the prosecutor producing it, holding it, anchoring it in the air where it couldn't be spun. When Ryan took the stand, he didn't ask for pity. He admitted, "I signed the power of attorney," he said, "because I wanted money, because I wanted the wedding, because I thought I could fix it later." The prosecutor asked, "Who pressured you?" Ryan swallowed. "Vanessa," he said, "and Grant." "And what did Vanessa say about your mother?" The prosecutor asked. Ryan's voice shook. "She said, 'Old women sit on land and do nothing,'" he admitted. "She said we could make her look unsafe." Vanessa stared straight ahead, refusing to look at him. Grant refused too. When Vanessa finally took the stand, she tried softness first. "I never wanted to hurt Evelyn," she said, voice trembling. "I just wanted a future." The prosecutor held up the burner extraction report and read Vanessa's words. "Kendra is ready. Make sure she looks like Evelyn. We need the stamp by Tuesday." Vanessa's face drained. "That's not," she began. "It is," the prosecutor said. "We have the device. We have the extraction. We have the chain of custody." Vanessa's mask cracked, and when it cracked, she turned on Grant. "He told me to handle it," she snapped. "He said she was an obstacle." Grant's attorney jumped up, furious. But the jury had already heard the truth in the only language that matters in court: admissions. Grant took the stand next and tried to stay calm. He denied controlling payments. The prosecutor held up the wires. $30,000 to Ryan Carter, she said. $4,000 to Kendra Lark. $2,500 to Darlene Pike. $15,000 to a medical consultant. $48,000 to Lakeview Medical Consulting. Grant's jaw tightened. The prosecutor asked the question that pinned him to the table. "Then why did you label Ryan Carter's payment? Keep him compliant." Silence flooded the room. Grant's mouth opened, then closed. The judge's eyes hardened. The jury didn't take long. The verdict came on a Friday. Guilty, conspiracy, fraud, identity misuse, evidence tampering. Vanessa was remanded immediately due to bail violations and flight risk. Grant's bail was restricted, and his assets were frozen pending restitution. Sentencing came later. The judge didn't speak with drama. She spoke with disgust. "Ms. Hart," she said, "you used an impersonator. You attempted to manipulate medical evidence. You violated bail. You show no remorse." Vanessa's attorney begged. "She's young." Vanessa snapped, "I'm not a child." The judge's voice turned colder. "Then you will be sentenced as an adult," she said. "Years. Restitution. Permanent restraining order. No contact." When Vanessa was let out, she didn't cry. She smiled like she was storing hatred for later. For Grant, the judge spoke about power. "You treated the legal system as a tool for acquisition," she said. "You treated a landowner as a barrier to be removed. Your company funded fraud." His attorney argued community contributions. The judge replied, "Then he can contribute from custody. Time, fines, business restrictions, entity dissolutions on the corridor project. Grand Development Group's Project Alder collapsed. Permits paused. Investors fled. Contractors sued for unpaid invoices. The back acreage behind my land became an expensive, inaccessible burden. The civil consequences followed, line by line, with Priya tightening each one. Deeds voided. Fraud flagged permanent. Title company settlement paid. Bank compensation paid. Court costs and attorney fees assigned. Punitive damages awarded. And then there was Ryan. The prosecutor honored the cooperation deal. Ryan avoided prison, but he didn't walk away clean. Probation, restitution, mandatory counseling, financial restrictions, a court order preventing him from acting as my agent in any capacity. No POA, no access, no signatures. After the last hearing, Priya asked me gently, "Evelyn, have you decided what to do about your estate?" I had. We met in her office with Ryan present, because consequences mean nothing if they're hidden. I slid my amended trust across the table. Ryan stared at it, eyes wet. "Am I cut out?" he whispered. I kept my voice calm. "You are not entitled to land," I said. "You will not inherit the parcel. You will not inherit control." Ryan's shoulders shook. "But," I continued, "I'm not leaving you nothing." His head lifted, hope flickering like a lighter. I watched it and spoke carefully. "I'm leaving you a structured distribution through a third-party trustee," I said. "No lump sums. No access. Stability, not indulgence. Because humans repeat what they don't heal." Ryan swallowed hard. "You don't trust me," he whispered. "I trust you to be human," I replied, "and I trust myself to be wise." Priya added, "Evelyn also placed a parcel into a conservation agreement. No development access. Permanent." Ryan blinked. "You're giving it away," he whispered. "I'm protecting it." I corrected. Time passed. Spring came with damp soil and birds that sounded too cheerful for what I'd lived through. Grant's office emptied. A for-lease sign went up in the window of the building he once walked into like a king. Vanessa's social media accounts vanished. Ryan moved into a small rented apartment, got a second job, attended counseling, and began paying restitution. He wrote letters on paper. I didn't answer all of them. Trust isn't rebuilt with paragraphs. It's rebuilt with seasons. 8 months after the wedding, the county installed a sign near the back edge of my land. "Protected parcel, no development access." Mr. Ochoa walked over to look at it, hat in hand. "Looks official," he said quietly. "It is," I replied. He nodded, eyes soft. "Your father will be proud," he said. The words landed gently. A year after the wedding, I hosted a small gathering on my porch. Not a celebration of ruin, a celebration of rebuilding. Neighbors came. Marla and Kevin came. Even the county clerk sent a note. "Glad you held your ground." Ryan stood at the edge of my yard with a small potted sapling in his hands. He didn't step onto my porch without invitation. He waited. I watched him for a long moment, then nodded toward the steps. He came up slowly. "It's an oak," he said quietly. "I thought maybe we could plant it. Not as forgiveness, just as a marker. A marker." I looked at the thin trunk, the wrapped roots, the newness of it. Then I nodded. "All right," I said. We planted it together near the spot where the survey stakes had once been. The soil was damp and dark. It smelled alive. Ryan packed earth around the roots with trembling hands and looked up at me. "I'm not asking for anything," he said. "I just want to put something back." I nodded. "That's the first honest thing you've offered me in years," I said. He swallowed hard. "I know," he whispered. When he left, I watched him go without that old ache that used to run my life. My life wasn't built around my son's approval anymore. It was built on land, on legacy, on truth. When I went back inside and shut my door, the house felt like a house again. Not a target, not a prize, just a roof. And beneath it, the thing that mattered most, the ground. Never confuse a roof with the ground it stands on.